got busy because it was like the buzz of we put the Facebook out, we put the website out, all the family and friends were sharing it, and so it was like super busy. I was all pumped up, and then it kind of died down.
Yeah.
And then it was like quite a while of like, you know, scraping by, you know, and barely making it. And then I found like we started looking into like marketing and stuff, and found a couple different companies that did it, and it's all like Google advertising. And yeah, it was game changing. It like changed my life. It went from like I said, barely scraping by to like now being like I was just telling him, like just trying to I can't keep up at this point. Like,
That's crazy. Yeah. And is it just you and your business?
It's just me. I have two. It's like I have people that contract for me. So like right now, the two things that I do in the business is private lessons. So I'll go to people's houses. Usually it's like on a weekly basis. I'll go there. You know, I sell like a package. So 4 lessons, 10 lessons. And I go to their house for an hour, and I just kind of help them train their dog.
Sure.
And the other one is board and train, so that the dog comes and stays with me for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And like at the beginning, right when I started doing the advertising, I was doing both. I was doing board and trains, and I was doing private lessons. So I was doing both, right? So I was like, I would have 2 dogs at the house, and I'd wake up in the morning. I got to take care of those dogs. I'd take them out, train them, and then I'd usually start doing appointments at like 10. So then I'd rush to a lesson, and then I'd run home, take care of the dogs again, let them out, train them, run back to another lesson. Usually do like 3 lessons a day. With running home, like always just running, going 100 miles an hour, always late, always just like just running around crazy, and it just got to be too much. So then I reached out, started looking for trainers that could like work for me. And right now I'm not quite at the point where I can like pay someone like, you know, as an employee. So what we do is I do the lessons, I do private lessons. So then it just gives me more time to you know, I can schedule more lessons throughout the day. I mean, I still have my dogs. I still do. I still feel like I have dogs at the house all the time. But the goal is to do that less, and then I have 2 trainers that do the board and trains. So if I have a client that wants to do board and trains, I'll send them. They will go to my trainers, and then 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then the way it kind of works out now, which works out nice because it's like I still take a percentage of that, so I'm making like a commission a little bit, or I'm paying them a commission. But then the way I do it is I always try to, because in dog training too, right? Like it's the board and train versus private lessons kind of argument is like board and train, we train the dog and then we give the dog back. And if that's just it, the dog, it's gonna be a waste of money. You're flushing that money down the toilet. So the most important part about the board and train is that you got to do the follow-up lessons. So the way I do it is I send them to my trainers for the board and trains, and then I do the private lessons afterwards. So it's like, I'm not technically losing out on money, because then you could say like, well, if I could have sold them the private lessons, I would have made all the money. So then it's like, but I'm still making a little. But this way, it's like I still get them as the private lessons, but it's just like a couple months later.
So what is it?
It works well.
Is it just protection dog train that you do, or what is it?
No, so my business, like Revive Canine, is primarily pet dogs.
Okay.
It's like little poodles and labs that jump and drive people's families crazy.
Yeah.
And then the protection training, I do, like it is growing, but that's more of like my hobby pretty much.
Okay.
I have my dog Rico. It's like I do sport protection with him, or protection sport with him. And then...
What is that?
So the sport that we compete in is called Mondio Ring. Mondio Ring it's a ring sport. So there's a couple different kind of ring sports. What makes Mondio Ring different than other sports? It's there's 3 kind of categories to each, or there's 3 levels 1, 2, and 3, and then within each of those levels there's different categories, and there's obedience, and then there's jumps, and then there's protection, in that order. Within the obedience, the order can be random, which is different than some sports. Some sports, it's very routine. You know you're going to go on the field and you're going to do this, 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 and this. You know that. You know the order. You know the field is going to be the same. The exercises are going to be the same. If there's a retrieve, the retrieve is going to be the same. In Mondio Ring, everything's different. So the only thing that's the same is, like I said, you start out with obedience, and then you do the jumps, and then you do protection. But within that obedience, you're going to do like So for level 1, and in each level that you go up, it gets more and more.
Yeah.
So I just got a level 1 routine with Rico. He's just 2, so we're just kind of starting to. I'm still very new at all this stuff. And with Rico, a level 1, I think our routine, we were on the field for like less than 10 minutes.
And is this like for competition? Is that what it is, right? Competition?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of like what you see in like a YouTube video, is like just kind of like arena with like all the little obedience obstacle course.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
And that's another thing I like. If you see a Mondio ring field, it's going to look insane because each trial, so it's called a trial, the competition, has a theme. So the theme, the trial that I did, the theme was camping. So you look at the field and there's tents, there's just random stuff everywhere. Yeah. And then you kind of, each exercise is incorporated into that theme. So the retrieve, I guess that wasn't really connected to camping, but the retrieve can be anything. So like you teach your dog a retrieve, and then over time you generalize it to literally anything that I throw, you go get and bring it back. So when you show up to trial, you don't know what the retrieve is going to be. Like it could be what it was on our trial. It was a rubber snake, which for level 1, it's not as hard. For level 3, it might be a 5-gallon bucket. Really? Where you go out, like obviously it's hard to grab. Yep. It's going to be hard. There's one spot, if you get it on the rim, you can get it, but it's hard, right? Yeah. So it gets harder, it gets longer. For a level 3 routine, you're on the field for 45 minutes, half hour to 45 minutes. No e-collar, no leash, no treats, nothing. It's just you and your dog. And I think that's another thing that differs from other sports too. Some sports, you go on the field, you do obedience, you get off the field. Next day, you go on the field, you do protection, and then you're done. But to go on in a field with nothing, but just your training for that long, it sounds like a long time and it sounds impressive, but you can't even really like comprehend how impressive it is to keep control of a dog like that for that long. Like it's crazy.
Especially no e-collars, no leash, none of that.
Nothing. And like even with Rico, with our routine, like by the end of it, like he was loose. Like you could tell, like he was, and these are working dogs, right? These are strong dogs that want to do their own thing. They're bred to do this specific thing. So they see a decoy on the field, that's all they want to do. So like at the end of it, like I'm telling him to heel, and he's like 3 feet in front of me, and I was like, oh shit, like we just gotta get through this one more, and he did it. We did good. We did pretty well.
With like that retrieve. So how you said they can pick up, like it's a different object each time, right? Yep. Like, how does a dog know to go get that one certain thing? Like, is it a name or like what? Okay,
so we start off with something very simple like a PVC pipe, or some people use like a paint cover, like a roller cover, or a wooden dowel, or something that you start off with that, and you start off with just a hold command. So you put it in front of the dog's face, he puts his mouth on it, and you reward him, and you do that over and over again. And then maybe you go from taking it from your hand, you put it on the ground, and he picks it up off the ground, he brings it to you. And then maybe you set it a couple feet away, and then you get further and further until you throw it. And then once he's doing the dowel or the PVC pipe consistently, then you start to generalize it. And then maybe I'll grab, I'm not going to go straight from a PVC pipe to a bucket.
Sure.
I'm going to go from a PVC pipe to, something similar in size and shape.
Water bottle.
Exactly, a water bottle. Perfect. A little bit, maybe that crunch is a level of challenge that kind of throws them off. And then you just, over time, you make it a little harder, And then if you do the foundation well, in theory, you should be, if the dog understands what the job is, you should be able to throw anything, and he should understand. You hear the command, and I go get the thing and bring it back. So,
damn.
So is this set up just like a fight? You know what I mean? How they go by weight and like division and stuff? Yep. Is that same kind of a thing? Is it breed a dog? How is that all categorized?
Yep. So the only way it's categorized is through the levels. So or it's called a category. So so category 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. So it doesn't matter a breed of dog.
It does. In the sport we do. So technically, my dog is considered a mixed breed.
And what do you have?
He looks like a Dutch Shepherd. He was bred. His bloodline is. It's through KMPV Bloodlines, it's just another organization. It's another KMPV is actually a sport overseas in Europe, and in Mondio Ring, the sport of Mondio Ring, it all falls under a certain organization, and they only recognize certain registrations. So not even breeds, it's just their registration. And my dog, his registration isn't recognized, so technically, he's registered as I have to write down he's a mixed breed, and the rules are I can't compete with him like in the big championship. So the national champion. I mean, it's really like kind of a dumb technical rules, but like the rule is I can't compete under an international judge. He would have to be like a FCI or AKC or something like that. So,
So literally, it'd have to be like a purebred, or they would have to be.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty much.
That's the only way that they would be able to.
Like. So for me, there's like a variance in the rules that say, hey, we'll let them play, but so I can do club trials. So basically, if you look at it, if you compare it to like a sports team, there's like the regular season games where you just go out, you play other teams, and then there's the playoffs. And then after the playoffs, there's the Super Bowl. So they basically they made a variance. It's like a 5-year variance. After that's up, they'll probably do it again, renew it. But they basically said like, we'll let you play, but once you get to the big championships, if it's an international judge, then you can't play. But it's kind of weird because like last year there was a American judge. So like, I was like thinking, I was talking to the people in my club. I was like, technically, I guess I could compete, but I think in other ring sports, they'll let you compete. But if you win, you won't, like if my points say I'm in first place, I won't get first place. Like
the next guy.
And then whoever was next under me, they get the trophy, and then they get the opportunity to go to the World Cup. So, and when I got Rico, I didn't know any of that. So I got Rico knowing I wanted to do some sort of sport, and the sport that I kind of was interested in wasn't a big scene in Minnesota. There was, but it wasn't a lot of experience. So basically, I had a couple different options. And my one option was do the sport that I kind of was interested in at the time, but train and learn from people that they're new themselves. Like they're just figuring out pretty much. So basically it's the blind leading the blind. Like, and my attitude was like, I want to learn from the best.
Right.
So then I found another club in Minnesota that they were doing Mondio Ring, and they were good. They were, they had a lot of experience. The guy, one of my main mentors, he's been doing Mondio for like 13 years. He's competed at the World Cup. The girl who runs the club, she's won the national championship. They both, most people in the club competed in the national championship. So it's like, I want to get a foundation, and I want it to be a good foundation. And I'm so glad I did it that way, because now it's like I'm starting to branch off. I do train with, some people come to me, and like I have clients in the sport world with other sports, and they're like, they have their club with their decoys, but they're coming over and training from me because, I've put in the time, and I've learned from people who have, gone out there and done it versus learning from somebody who, if I'm going to do something, I want to do something like if I'm going to learn from somebody, I want to look at them and say, I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to look at them and be like, they're at the same place I am. Like I said, it's the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
Like, what's the
just
point?
half-ass it and then fail at the end because it just like you said, it's the blind leading the blind. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? Wasting my time.
Yes, exactly. And although it's like different sports, I think if your foundation is good and you have a good understanding and you do it the right way, it's kind of all the same, right? Like a dog is a dog. The genetics are what they are, and you learn how to work a dog. Obviously you learn things the way that we do in a particular sport, but it's very easy to like generalize that to other sports. Like, maybe I don't know the rules as well, but I know
the concepts.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can figure it out, right? Because there's similarities to it.
So I gotta ask you, what the hell made you want to do this? Like when did it kind of kick off to you that you want to start training dogs?
So training dogs was a long time ago. When I was 15 years old, I played a lot of sports. Well, not a lot of sports. I played hockey. I was a big hockey player. Yep. And my dad was like my coach growing up, and I was, really close with my dad. And he got deployed. He was in the military. He got deployed, and he was gone for a couple of years almost. And I was just like this sad little teenager, and I was like, quit hockey. I was like, I don't want to play hockey anymore. You know what I mean? And so, I think our family dog just had passed away, and my brother-in-law. He might not have been my brother-in-law at the time. He might have been my sister's boyfriend, but his dog had puppies, and they gave me a puppy. And I remember I was just getting into like duck hunting at the time. I was going hunting with some friends because again I quit hockey, so it's like I had to find something else to do.
Yeah,
So like,
keep busy.
yeah, I got into snowboarding a little bit more. Got into hunting with some friends, and a couple of my friends had really good hunting dogs, and they all sent them away to get trained. You know, their parents spent $5,000 to get the dog trained. And I remember, I think I asked my mom if we could send her off to get trained. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was probably something like, that's ridiculous. Like, like I'm not going to spend $5,000 on my 15-year-old son's dog. Like, get the fuck out of here. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll train her myself. And I went to Shields and I bought every single DVD and book. And, you know, this is before like YouTube was really a thing. Like, I think it was there, but you can't, you know, it was limited.
No.
So I just, you know, did as much research as I could. I remember watching DVDs over and over and over again. I trained her myself, and she was really good. Like, I remember I'd take her hunting with my friends' dogs, and she would out hunt them.
Really? The ones trained by professionals?
Yeah, for sure. And I remember thinking like, hey, I'm kind of good at this. And, you know, later on, when I went to college, I kind of went to college for not that long. When we did a short stint in college. And
What'd you go to college for? Not to.
I mean, I took business classes.
Oh, okay,
I don't know if I went to college for business, but the classes that I went to,
Yeah, that's what I signed up for.
a little bit, yeah, were business because I always knew I wanted to kind of own my own business. I kind of wanted to do my own thing. I wasn't a good, you know, like employee. I mean, I was. There's certain jobs where I was the best employee, where I was the first one there and the last one to leave. But there were also jobs where I was the worst employee. And I think in looking back now, it came down to my boss.
Yeah, leadership.
I had I had good leadership, and it made me a good employee. If I had a boss that didn't give a shit, I'm like, why do I give a shit? Right?
Yeah.
So you think it was that entrepreneur kind of mindset?
For sure.
Is that what kind of formed you in a little bit, or a little bit to?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Like I mean, as long as I can remember, I've always had that kind of mentality. I think there's certain people that are like naturally good at business. I don't think I'm one of them. It's hard for me. Like, it's really hard for me. I'm not good at it.
Can you, like, when you say business, like, what do you mean by that? Like, dealing with people, customers, numbers?
I'm good with people. I think that's the only thing I got going. I'm good with people and I'm passionate. I'm good with people and I'm passionate. And I think that's what makes, you know, people happy and leave good reviews and to hire me because they buy into me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when it comes down to like being organized and like, you know, keeping track of things and all that stuff, scheduling, returning phone calls, I just want to work dogs.
Yep.
And like, I think sometimes I listen to podcasts and see stuff online. There's people that are just like naturally just kind of that entrepreneurial mindset. And that's the part they like is like organizing and, you know, keeping track of numbers and doing all that stuff. And that's why I say like that part's really hard for me and I have to put in a lot of effort. And
That's one of them things though too, where it's like you do what you do best and you delegate the rest. You know, just keep expanding. Just like you said,
100%.
it's like you're growing more. You know, you keep growing more and more, and eventually it's like, dude, I just want to run the dogs. You know, fuck it.
For sure.
Hey Timmy, you take care of the phone calls today, or you know what I mean?
Exactly, 100%. And that's kind of like my goal is right now. Like I said, the business is pet dogs. My hobby is working dogs. I'd love to get to a point where, you know, I have a team that trains the pet dogs, and then I can do the working dogs and the sports stuff and stuff like that.
I see some of your videos that you posted on Facebook, and you're all geared up in that bite suit, right?
Yeah.
God dang, dude. I think the first video I seen, it was you, and I was like, I'm not sure. Maybe the dog was by like the handler's side or something, and got the cue to go and just kind of start running. This thing just latches on you. Like, what goes through your mind when this thing's running after you full speed?
Yeah, dude, it's nuts. It's really nuts. It's actually really crazy. But so like, you know, I had like a lot of stuff in my life where, like I said, a lot of this stuff's not easy for me. I had a really rough time with just life stuff, you know, I've started a lot of businesses and I've done a lot of things and I've never, you know, I've started a business and it went well and then it just kind of all went to shit. And then I started a business and it did well. And I've had a hard time just with life stuff. You know, I dealt with some addiction stuff, and I dealt with some mental health stuff, and I think, I guess to answer your question, I'm kind of like I kind of need, you know, and with addiction too, there's so much more that comes with that. It turns into like the lifestyle, and almost like the act of doing certain things becomes the addiction. It's not the drug or the alcohol or the gambling or any. It's everything that comes before that you kind of become that kind of gets a hold of you. So like getting my shit together, always looking for something to kind of, I mean, not replace it, because I think you got to kind of figure out how to live life without, like, you can't just fill that void. You can't replace it with something else. You can't just go from doing this to doing that. But to a certain extent, I think you kind of need to do that to a certain extent.
Kind of find a purpose, right?
Yeah, for sure. So like for me, that rush and that adrenaline, like I always needed something. Like without it, I just kind of,
you were still looking for
exactly.
it.
I'd always go back to that life because you know, I don't want to say it was just like boring, but it's just like there's not much excitement. So like for me with decoying, getting bit by a dog, it like really kind of, it does that for me to an extent. Like I love dogs. I love working dogs. I love learning about dogs, but the decoying aspect of it kind of does that for me. You know, it kind of gives me that rush and that kind of,
that fucking dopamine boost.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, for sure. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
God,
For sure. And I remember the first time it kind of got on my radar, like just working dogs and protection sport in general. And I started following different pages on Instagram. And there was one guy that I followed. He lived out in California. And I thought he was like, I really enjoyed his content. He seemed like he was really legit. And one day I was like watching, and he had a story, and it was a story of him working a dog on the leg. And so another different, like with the sport that I do is ring sports, is primarily dogs biting like the legs. Okay. And we can maybe get into that a little bit later. But so I saw him working a dog on his leg, and it said he was learning from, and he tagged a guy. And I was like, oh shit, who's he learning from? And I clicked on him, and it came up Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I was like, holy shit, like no way. This is crazy. It was just like kind of one of those moments where I was like, holy shit.
Like this dude's here.
Home.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
too far. Yeah.
Exactly. And at that time I was emailing people I would go on Facebook. I emailed every single police dog trainer, every single, you know, there's not a lot of people doing protection sports in Minnesota, but if there were, I reached out to them and, didn't get much back. So the first thing I did was I reached out to him because I had already sent out 100 emails probably. And, he got back to me right away and was like, what are you doing on Friday? And I was like, nothing, you know? And, so I went, and it was down in Rochester. He was they were training that night, and I met him there, and I was just kind of expecting to just watch and kind of hang out and ask questions and stuff. And that night I got in the suit and I got bit by a dog. And I was like instantly hooked. I mean, I was hooked before I even got in the suit. Like just watching, I remember walking in, and it was just a really cool atmosphere. It was people that were hanging out, they were, you know, drinking beers, and it was just really cool atmosphere. And I was like, man, this is awesome. This is really cool. And first dog came out, and I was like, holy shit. Like, it's a different level. It's not, it's like, you know, I expected it to be like, you know, it's a well-trained dog. And it's more than that. It's like, it's a different animal. It's like, it's not even like a dog. When I first saw it, I was like, what the fuck is this thing? Yeah. Like, what is that? Like, this is insane. Like the intensity and just the strength and just everything. I was like, what is it? Like,
that would be
like seeing it in person. Like I watch YouTube videos and stuff and Instagram and all that stuff. But when I saw it in person, it was like, holy cow, this is crazy.
Especially being there. Not to cut you up, but them things, man, that's like a brother has one, and them things latch on, and they're like, what's he have, a Belgian
Malamute? Yeah.
God dang, dude, the neck power on them things are fucking crazy.
He literally brought one here. Gosh, it was a male, and I think he was only, God, I don't even know, 6 months old. Young. I mean, he was pretty young, but he had that dog had anger issues because he does search and rescue, and he had this whole with his dog before. It was just a bad deal. The surgery went wrong, kind of a thing. And then he got this one, and it had like an actual a fucking
couple
anger.
Screws loose.
Yeah. And he brought him here in a cage, and even put like the muzzle on him and everything. Yeah. And he wasn't even a very big dog, but Fuck that.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, he was here and I'm like, I've never actually been like that. And he wanted to fucking kill me.
Yeah.
You know, like
His little puppy.
Yeah,
little
he looked
puppy.
right at me, dude.
Yeah,
and he
dude.
wanted me gone.
Oh yeah, dude.
I'm like, dude, like that's nothing to mess with. Them dogs are scary.
Yeah, so technically Rico, like I said, he's got different bloodlines. So technically his mom is a Belgian Malinois.
Okay.
His dad, and I don't know, so within those bloodlines, they mix them. They basically just mix them. They're breeding for workability. So it's the sport KMPV is a sport to produce police dogs. So they don't give a fuck about what the papers say. If it's a good dog, they're going to breed it to a good dog.
Yep.
So his mom looks like a Belgian Malinois, and his dad looks like a Dutch Shepherd. And a Dutch Shepherd is just it looks like the only difference, it has stripes on it. It's got that brindle coat.
Oh, yeah.
So technically, I mean, like an actual Dutch Shepherd is a little bit different, like an AKC Dutch Shepherd. But like within this bloodline, they're all the same. I call him a Dutch Shepherd because he's got stripes. He's got the brindle coat. So I just call him a Dutchie. But like some people would call him like, oh, he's a Dutch Shepherd Malinois mix, and that's like stupid, I think. So whatever. Okay.
No, it's not saying
Yeah. Like, but yeah. So technically, he is like he's the same thing for sure. He's a Malinois. So back to like the college and the dogs thing. Like all my college papers, I was write like, oh, what's your business idea, right? And I would say I want to own a dog kennel, or I want to own a jiu-jitsu gym because I was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. So like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do jiu-jitsu all day, and I wanted to train dogs, and again, like life happened. I was dealing with certain things, just kind of bouncing back and forth from being like a productive member of society and kind of a shitbag, and like, and then I'd get my shit together and like kind of get the ball rolling a little bit, and then so I started a painting business. The dog things was always there.
Yeah.
It was always something I was passionate about, but sometimes you just got to pay the bills and like just kind of try to
Make it through.
be an adult. And I was doing the masonry thing, and I was like, I did like my job. That was one of the jobs I had a good boss, and I was making good money. I was the first one there, last one to leave, doing really well. And they were starting to teach me how to lay stone. So I was like moving up in the world. And I remember one day I was like so sore. I was like mixing mud all day, humping buckets of brick up scaffolding. And I was just like, dude, this kind of sucks. Like, I want to be able to like play, coach my kid's football team when he's young. I want to be able to like
fucking move.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm like
Jello.
27, 28 years old, and I'm like limping around, waking up stiff as hell, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. So I remember just having this conversation with myself one day, and just being like, what am I passionate about? Like, I like my job, but I don't love doing it. Right? Like, I'm just making somebody else a bunch of money.
Right.
Like I collect checks sometimes. I see how much we're getting paid and how much that job cost to get done. And it's like, man, and again, he's a great boss. Everything was great, but I was just like, for me, that's how my brain works. I'm not just like, oh, I'll take my check and go home. Everything's good to go. Like I instantly start thinking about like, wait a second, like this dude's making a lot of money. I'm making like $30 an hour, which I thought was really good at the time, but it's like, he's doing less than I am. I'm busting my ass, It's
sure.
like, and that's how I always thought. Every job I had, it was always like, I could do that. Like,
Right.
what makes him more special than me, or what makes her more special than me? Like, I could do this, and I just had that epiphany. Like, I need to do something that I like doing and that I'm passionate about, because I'm a very passionate person. I'm kind of like an all or nothing kind of guy. I find something that I like and I get obsessed with it. And again, I think that goes back to kind of my personality and just kind of, I need something to put everything I have into. And the first thing I thought of was like dogs. I was like, that's what I used to want to do. I've always like kind of messed around with dogs along the way, like trained little dogs here and there. And, so at the time, again, I was making close to $30 an hour, probably not quite that much, but like $26, $27 an hour. Wow. And which was good for me. Like for me, like I was, hell yeah.
Balling out.
Yeah, for sure. I was comfortable. And I quit that job and I got a job I applied for every dog job I could find. I actually didn't quit the job. I started applying for any dog job I could find. And none of the kennels would get back to me, training positions. I needed experience. One training company did reach out to me. I went for an interview. They loved me. They hired me. And And then they run my background check and they realized that their insurance wouldn't cover me. So I was like,
Fuck.
it's like shit. Next. Yeah. So then I got a call from it was a grooming place. They groom dogs, and the title was a bather. I was a dog bather, and I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Making $12 an hour, giving dogs baths. But it was great, dude. I learned so much, just like reading dogs' body language. And right off the bat, like I knew I had, I mean, maybe some people might think like, you're born with like certain skills or talents, and, maybe that's real, maybe it's not. But like, I really truly believe like I have a connection with dogs. Like the people would bring dogs in that nobody could touch, nobody could trim their nails, or no one could get them in the bath. And I'd be like, well, let me try, and I could get the dog to do it. And it turned into like, there were certain clients and dogs that they'd bring their dog and they just so that I would do it, because nobody else could touch their nails. Nobody else could get them in the bath, but I could,
Why is that, you think? Is it like your body language?
I think a lot of it is like just my, just the energy that I give off. Dogs read body language so much more than we ever could even comprehend. It's crazy. I mean, things that we don't even realize we're doing, they're picking up on. They're reading those cues. They're watching how we move and what we do and all that stuff. And again, and another thing is, I think I knew I wanted to be a dog trainer.
So you're just kind of that mindset,
so
going
like,
into it?
For sure. So like when they'd bring a dog in, I'd be like, let me see if I can, teach this dog something. Let me see if I can do something with this dog. So like I was getting paid to be a dog bather, but, they'd get their dog back and I would, and especially in like the grooming industry, like it's all about like get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out.
Sure.
Like if your dog's scared of the blow dryer, put a muzzle on him, put the leash on him, get the job done. I'd get in trouble all the time because I'd be back there with like some treats and like I'd have the blower and I'd be like slowly desensitizing him and give him some treats, and they'd come in and be like,
"You got in trouble for that?"
Yeah, because they're like, "We don't have time for this shit."
Yeah. Oh, really?
They're like, "We got more dogs waiting,"
Yeah.
and you're in here, and I'm like, my thought was, okay, well, I could do that. I could put a muzzle on him, I could put a leash on him, and just get it done. But the next time he comes, he's going to be even worse.
Right.
So I could put in a little more time now. And then maybe the next time he comes, he's cool with it. And
save a little time.
And exactly.
So, like, did the owners kind of pick that up after a while? Like, you're actually doing them a favor?
For sure. And they actually had like a sister business that did training. So at the time, like I knew I was very transparent. I said, hey, I'll give your dogs baths, but I want to be a trainer. Like I want to, I think, and at the time too, like I did like a lot of, I was self-taught, I would say. Like I said, I read books, I watched YouTube videos, but I had no like professional training.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to get that. I didn't want to be the guy that just kind of taught himself and now I call myself a dog trainer.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to do it the right way. Very similar to my decoy, kind of what I was telling you earlier. Like I wanted to do it the right way. You see a lot of people on Instagram with social media these days, you can watch enough videos to mimic what people are doing and do enough to like look like you know what you're doing, but really you don't.
Like the full understanding of it.
Yes, it's mimicry. It's not actual training. It's just you watch the video. Oh, I can do that. There's a dog. I do the same thing.
Sure.
But
not actually understanding why
you don't know exactly. You don't know the why. All dogs are different, so maybe it worked in that video that you watched, but for this dog, obviously it's not working. And anybody that knows what they're looking at can tell. Yeah. But for the people that don't know, man, that looks sick. That looks badass, right? Like, so I was very.
It makes a great short, though.
Exactly. You got the cool reel with the dope music in it. Like, that's all that matters. You got a bunch of likes. So I was very aware and conscious of the fact that, like, I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted to be known for, like, I wanted people to come to me because of, like, my skill, like my experience. I wanted to get the experience. Like, even now, I don't advertise I guess I do kind of advertise for protection training, but it's very different. Like, yeah, if you go on my website, it does say protection training, but that's very different. As far as like the sport world, I don't advertise that I can train your sport dog. Like, I'm still learning. Like, I need to get, a lot further along before I get to that point. But I mean, I do have people that come to me. Like, if somebody comes to me, I'm very open and transparent and honest, and I tell them, like, I'll work with you, but I'm very quick to say, hey, that's a question for my mentor. Hey, that's a question for this guy. Like, this, I'll give you what I can, and if I get to the point where it's like, nah, I'm not sure what to do here, I'm not going to pretend like I do know.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a lot of people respect that though, because you're not
100%.
bullshitting
For
them.
sure.
And you're not
For
just
sure.
there to scam them. You're being real with them.
Yep.
100%. And I think that is why people do come back to me
Absolutely.
too, because of that honesty. And they know that I'm not going to mess their dog up, because there's a lot of decoys out there and trainers that won't do that. And they'll advertise that, hey, I'll train your dog, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then when they do get to that moment where they're like, shit, I don't know what to do here, they're just going to pull something out of their ass, which could potentially ruin the dog, and cause a lot of issues. And I don't want that. I want to be an asset to people. Like I want to be, it's kind of interesting, like the role of a decoy is you're a trainer. Like so I go to like seminars and I go to training where I work with a decoy, but it's not just a person that gets bit by the dog. Like he's training my dog. So like I have a trainer for my dog. And I think that's a lot of people kind of miss that in this world. A decoy is just someone to catch a dog safely and post a cool Instagram video. But there's a lot more to it. Like you're training if a dog's biting you, there's little things that I'm doing and that they're doing that's training,
So a decoy, like that's essentially another person, right?
So the decoy is the guy in the bite suit.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. When we train, we're in a group. So you have your dog, you're the handler.
Yep.
And then the decoy is the guy who gets bit by the dog. In the competition, all the decoy is trying to do is basically take points from you. So he's trying to, we have a clatter stick, and we're trying to intimidate the dog, slow him down. And if he comes to bite and that decoy can put on enough of a show to get that dog to go, oh shit, you start losing points.
Okay.
But when we're training, it's the opposite. The decoy's trying to teach the dog to be strong and make him feel good, which I think, again, is a mistake a lot of people make. A lot of people just put too much on the dog. And again, like I said, the decoy is the trainer.
Yep.
Like you're part of the team. So the team would be the handler, the dog, the decoy, and then the rest of the club. But like you're on the dog's team when you're getting bit. When we're training, it's like two different things. There's a training decoy and a trial decoy. When you're training, you're trying to help the dog. You're building him up. You're making him feel strong. You're teaching him that he's a badass, that he can do anything. That
Get that confidence.
Exactly, you build confidence. You teach him. If you keep going forward, that's the way to go. Like backing out, being scared, giving up, that doesn't work. And if we put too much on the dog too soon, that could happen.
Kind of break.
Sure.
Yeah, we want them to feel like they're invincible. Like they can literally lose no fight. That they're undefeated. We want them to feel like they're the heavyweight champion.
Yeah. Does that go off of like repetition? Is that kind of like a lot of just repeating, like sit, and then pretty soon like he's a master at sitting? Is that what it is?
For sure, it is, and it's a lot about genetics.
Okay.
100%, it's a lot about genetics. I think a dog with poor genetics, you can do as many repetitions as you want. It's not going to make much of it. I mean, it might help, but you're only going to get so far.
Sure.
Like you're going to get to a certain point where you just can't get any more.
Where
out
they're
of
like,
it.
fuck it, this is good. I'm sitting.
For sure. Like like I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. But so genetics are very important in what we do.
So in the way the guy moves in the decoy, like, is there a particular way he has to, or that would better the dog if he were to move a certain way with his leg or his arm, like that? Like, how do you move in there? What's the ways you want to move in that?
Okay, so I'll try to make as much, because this can all get really confusing.
Yeah,
we can get deep into the weeds and no one's going to have any idea what we're talking about. So to make it like as simple as I can, so the dog bites, we want the dog to bite, hold on, and push forward. That's the ideal, like, kind of grip mechanics. That's for the sport we do. That's what we want. We want the dog to bite, hold, and push forward. And like even like a police dog, you should want that same thing, because a police dog that comes up and bites and starts pulling and thrashing and chewing, like that's all signs of the dog's uncomfortable. The dog's stressed. He's biting, letting go, biting, letting go. A dog that bites, clamps down, and is calm, he's confident. He's comfortable. He's like, this is right where I want to be. You can do whatever you want to me. I'm just going to keep pushing forward.
Wow.
So let's say the dog bites me. As the decoy, I might give him a little bit of a fight. Might, maybe give him a little bit of pressure. It's all about pressure. So I might kind of get a little bit big, hold my stick up over him. And then if that dog pushes me forward, I'm going to exaggerate, let him push me back, and basically be like, oh shit, you're so strong. And then I'm going to stop applying that pressure. So I might be hitting him with the stick, kind of yelling at him. And then he pushes forward, pressure stops. So what we're teaching the dog if you're feeling a little bit like this is a lot of pressure, if you just keep pushing forward, that pressure will turn off.
Gotcha.
Oh, sure.
Which all is full circle. When I'm training pet dogs, I'm doing the same thing. You add a little bit of pressure. You know, you say sit, add a little bit of pressure with the leash. The dog's butt touches the ground. Pressure turns off. Good boy. Give him a treat.
Yep.
So as you're, like I said, the decoy is a trainer. So when the dog's biting, there's a lot going on that you don't really see.
Yeah.
You'll never see, right? Even little twitches with the leg, or the dog bites and maybe you kind of flex your muscle a little bit. So he has feedback. Basically, think of a squeaky toy. Dogs love squeaky toys. They bite the squeaky toy, it makes a sound, and they get feedback, and they bite it again.
Sure,
and they're getting that feedback. So as a decoy, you just want to be a big squeaky toy. He bites hard and pushes forward. He gets a big reaction out of me. And it's a lot of theatrics and a lot of just being exaggerating. Like he kind of pushes forward, and you're like, oh, maybe you fall to the ground, and you're basically like, oh my gosh, you're so strong. Oh my gosh, you're the biggest, baddest dog in the world. So. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
You know what I think is really cool with just hearing about how dogs really do think, by what you're talking about here. And a lot of it is the same way for people too.
Oh, dude.
It's the same. A lot of it is the same
Tell me about
thing.
it.
Just by hearing what you're saying, I'm not super good with dogs by any means or none of that stuff. But just by what you're saying, it's it's persistence. It's,
dude.
It's the way they train on how you want that confidence. You want that ability to keep pushing forward,
And even if we think about it, take away the protection sport aspect of it, and we're just talking about regular pet dogs, there's always this big argument among dog trainers about how they train dogs. Either you're a positive only, where it's all just about treats and just positive reinforcement only. You shouldn't even say no to your dog. You shouldn't. Your dog should never experience stress. And then there's the other side. There's the other team that they're a balanced trainer.
Yeah.
They train dogs through positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement would be I'm giving them a treat. Negative reinforcement is kind of what I was talking about earlier, that pressure turning off. Then there's also, that's how you teach a dog something. And how do you get a dog to stop doing something? There's positive punishment and there's negative punishment. You add you're adding consequences. So, I mean, it's 100% as humans, if we don't go through some sort of discomfort, we die.
100%.
It's the hot stove, right?
Yeah.
You touch the hot stove, you learn that sucks. So you don't do it again.
Yep.
If we don't have that, we're just walking around, walking off cliffs, walking into traffic, right? So it is a lot like humans, and dogs need that little bit of discomfort and stress to feel confident and to learn things and to kind of
grow.
Exactly. They learn hey, that sucked, but I pushed through it and I feel great now.
Yeah. That's literally same shit. I love it. I love it. That's fucking 100%.
Yeah, dude. There's just so many parallels.
100%.
Yeah, dude.
Have you ever had a major kind of malfunction when a dog was latching onto you? Any of those?
No, not. You'd be surprised how much control and how good these dogs are. Actually, none of the dogs in my club are dangerous dogs. They're all extremely social. It's all just a big game to them.
Yeah.
With my dog, he runs around with my 8 nieces and nephews. If people come over, he's fine. He doesn't. He's just chilling. He's a very social dog. A very confident dog. But when it's time to work, it's time.
It's like a light switch in a way.
For sure. But and at the same time too, it's all about context, right? So the way we train, we don't teach the dog. If there's definitely, I think if I would have trained him a different way, there might be some serious aggression there. But it's just a game to him. Oh, it's basically like I said, the squeaky toy. Him biting a decoy is just basically biting a giant toy. No. You know what I mean? He's safe. I would trust him around anybody. So I think a lot of people get the wrong idea that these are big, scary, mean dogs, and they're really not. No. A very small percentage of that do sport are actually serious dogs. They could be. The good ones. It's just a matter of how you train them. You know what I mean? I've never shown Rico the picture of you should show aggression towards a human with no suit on. He doesn't know that that's an option.
Yep.
It's just like bringing a puppy home for the first time. You puppy proof your house. You put up a little gated area, and if the dog never realizes that chewing on the couch is an option, he's never going to chew on the couch. So it's like if we just throw him in the house and he starts chewing on the couch, chewing up shoes, like now it's an option.
there,
So it's
yeah.
just like with Rico, if I would have, a lot of people wanted, they do it for the wrong reasons. Oh, I want my dog to be big bad dog. So then it's called civil, like you're training your dog like civil aggression, like teaching him to show aggression towards the man. No equipment, no bite suit, no sleeve, no toy. It's just a man with no jacket, bare arms, and we teach him that that's an option to bite that guy.
That's a fucking scary option.
Yeah, exactly. And now, and not even that. And now it's a liability.
Yeah, 100%.
So now it's like if your dog knows that that's an option, now you have a liability on you.
God, fuck. Imagine that one.
Yeah, dude. No, and like Rico's my buddy first, and a protection sport dog second. So like I we want to have kids. I have nieces and nephews. Like I don't want a dog that I just have to lock up and just keep in the room. Because then, okay, let's even say I did want him to be a real protection dog. But if he was that, now I just got to keep him in the kennel all day long. What good's he going to do in the kennel? Right now, he's in my pickup. If something happens right now, he's not going to do nothing. Right? Like if I can't trust my dog to be around, what's the point?
What good? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally just sitting out in the corner, I mean, there he is. We'll let him out for a couple hours.
Right, for those cool Instagram reels, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears here. You said you did jujitsu, right?
Yep.
Did you do competition or
I think I did one. I think I did one as a white belt. Yeah.
Is that the furthest you went, white belt?
I got a blue belt.
Okay.
I did get my blue belt.
How was that? 'Cause I'm kind of thinking about jujitsu myself. What is it to? What the hell do you expect the first day you go in there?
Oh, dude, I mean, I'm the same way. Like I'm constantly just like, God, I should go back. And I always talk like with my friends. When I was training, I started around the same time as this other kid who was kind of my size, my age, similar skill level, and like now he's a black belt like instructor. So now I see him on like social media. I was like, oh man, I could be there too. And I'm always thinking about wanting to go back. Just right now, I just don't have enough time. It's just there's not enough hours in the day. But it was definitely. Again, like when I started, I was obsessed with it. I was living in Little Falls and driving to Brainerd, 5 times a week training, and it's, I think for someone that like me, like what I was telling you guys earlier, like I just kind of need that little bit of struggle and that rush and that intensity. Like I've never been in better shape, both physically and mentally when I was doing jujitsu, for sure.
So is that like a lot of grappling?
Yeah.
Or is it like using? Because I'm not quite sure. Is jujitsu? Is that when you use like your body weight or movement?
So for sure, so jujitsu is like it's grappling. It's like wrestling, but instead of trying to pin the guy, you're trying to submit the guy. So through chokes and arm locks and leg locks and stuff like that, and.
You get some of them, see on Instagram, they get going, and these are, God, I don't know, nationals, the top of the top, and they look like spiders. Like when them guys are really going at it, it's like you don't know what fucking leg belongs to who, and they're just going to town. I'm like, that would be dope to get there, but that's a fucking.
It is.
Lot.
I think it's it's kind of the same theme we've been talking about. Like it's just like you go to a jiu-jitsu class, you get your ass beat for a few hours. You go to class for an hour, then you roll for an hour, you just get beat up and you get submitted over and over and over again. But it's like, and then you keep going back. Yeah. And it's like, it sucks. You're getting beat up, but then you go back and then you get a little bit better and then you get a little bit better. And then all of a sudden you got this confidence and it's like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, and you start subbing guys and you start winning, and kind of tapping guys out and stuff. And I think like I said, like thinking about having a family and having kids someday, like, dude, that'll be 100%. I will have my kids in some sort of martial arts.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. I think it teaches, I have 2 kids and we've talked about the same thing, that we're going to put them in jiu-jitsu as well, because it teaches great discipline. It teaches them, growth. It's noticeable, drawing a blank here. It's noticeable growth. You can see you growing and getting better all the time. And I was in jiu-jitsu just for a little bit. I went a few times in St. Cloud.
Yeah.
And the first time I went is actually Brock Lesnar.
Brock Larson?
Or no. Well, Lesnar, I think. No. Maybe it is Larson because he lives in Brainerd.
Yeah.
But he has a studio in St. Cloud. Yeah.
So when I was in Brainerd, he was at that gym.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the first day I went there, I just went a couple days or whatever, just because it was like a free little course thing. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll go try it.
Oh yeah.
And so I was working with, and he knows that I'm new there and giving it a shot. And he's like, all right, he laid down on his back there. He's like, all right, tap me out. this dude's fucking huge. You know, I'm 5'5". This dude's fucking huge.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
I just felt awkward as shit. Like, I'm like, dude, I don't even know.
do I hug you?
I
Do
don't
I
even know.
squeeze you
Yeah, because I
hard?
was in
Right,
wrestling in high school, so I was like, dude,
Okay,
it's not even comparison. Like,
Yeah.
I can't fucking do a shit. I'm like trying to put him in an arm bar, and he's laughing at me. He's like,
yeah.
no, dude, you gotta turn your thumb up. Thumb up,
Yeah.
man. I'm like, oh,
You're
fuck.
probably hurting yourself more.
Yeah,
than you are.
dude. Yeah, it was.
So,
Like,
and you can't even explain what it's like to roll with a guy like that. Because I remember I've rolled with him, and it's like,
I'm gonna go shut that blind.
cool. The strength and like just his hands
Fucking
and like
huge,
a guy
man.
like
Yeah.
that who has been doing jujitsu for that long. You just can't explain what it's like to like roll with a guy like that. Like it's like you literally can't do anything.
No,
There's nothing.
literally.
There's nothing you're gonna do.
Yep.
And yeah, it's pretty incredible. Because
and it's
like,
fucking scary, dude. It's like, what happened if you'd have someone like that and he'd have like a, you know, that wasn't in the right mindset and
Yeah.
you were maybe not in the right place at the right time.
oh yeah,
he'd
dude. Like
fucking
think
kill
about
you.
it. And now like jujitsu is getting so popular and like everyone's doing it like now. So like, dude, you're not gonna get into don't go out into a bar and like get into a fight because you don't know. Like some of the dudes at the gym that I would train at are just like these little. You'd be sitting cross-legged before class playing chess and like playing like Magic the Gathering and like just these little
Yeah.
these little dweeby dudes and
Yeah.
then they go on the mat and they just like strangle you like it's nothing like it's just like piece of cake, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you just never know.
Yeah.
Because like, there's a guy like him. You see him on the streets, you're like, no, thank you. Like that guy's gonna mess anybody up.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of guys that you'd see on the street, and you would think, man, I could take that guy, and like I said, he would strangle you in 3
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's what's cool with the jiu-jitsu is they basically, it teaches you to use your body against you. Use, you know, I mean, their body against
sure.
themselves.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it's like you're
Yeah.
using their body as leverage.
Yeah, because a lot of really small guys can totally just manhandle a dude twice their size.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like what you're saying. Like
crazy.
I use that analogy a lot with clients. I say like, you know, playing a lot because there's controversy about playing. I just had a client the other day who they have this really strong pit bull who got into a dog fight with their other dog, tore him up pretty good, and he's got a couple screws loose too. Like he gets a little bit aggressive and stuff. And
The owner or the dog?
the dog. Yeah. Maybe the owner too. No, the owner's great. Owner's great. He's awesome. He's cool. He's like an old biker dude. And after he got into a dog fight, they sent him away to a trainer for 10 weeks, which is pretty long. That's a long time. I mean, they had to take out a small loan to send him away. And they got him back and they were just like, I'm kind of telling two stories in one here.
Yeah.
So they get him back and they're like, I think they tried reaching out and asking questions and they're like, well, what do we do? Like, you trained him, right? Like, but we don't know what to do now. So, which is why I think like those follow-up lessons are so important. It's the most important part. So they were like getting frustrated, and that's when they reached out to me because they saw on my website I do private lessons. This other place that did the board and train didn't. And so I'm working with these people, and again, he's a really strong pit bull, and I was kind of trying to show them how to like play tug of war with him, and they were just like, you could tell right away. They're like, oh, the last place told me I shouldn't do that. Like that's gonna make him mean, right? Like that's gonna make him aggressive. And I was like, no, it's not. And then I use this, so now I'm just kind of circling back. I can make the comparison line. It's like sending your kid to karate class. Like that kid that knows karate, that knows how to defend him, he's less likely to get into a fight, right? Which that part's a stretch for dogs. I'm not really saying like, oh, if we teach him to, that's kind of different.
kinda get what you're
but
saying,
like, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like giving the dog an outlet, and it's something that he was, you know, pit bulls are bred, they're you know, to fight for a long time. That's just the facts.
Yep.
You can't argue that that's not what they were bred for, and genetics are real. So you have this dog that has this natural instinct to want to bite things and kind of, you know, hang on and bite stuff. So it's like, if we can play this game with him, and if we can teach him that hey, yeah, you love your toy, but it's a really good like bonding thing to do with your dog. Like you're playing tug. Like now, okay, yeah, the toy's fun, but now it just became so much more fun because mom and dad's involved. Now it's this game that we're playing together. And then when mom and dad stops playing, the game's not as fun. So it's actually like, I hear that. I've heard that. It's not the first time I've heard that, where I'm like, oh, you've ever played tug with your dog? And they're like, oh no, we don't want to teach him to do that. And I'm like,
Really?
well, you should.
See, and that's kind of what I thought too. Is like, is it not that tug of war is kind of like a bond between the pet and the owner?
Yeah, it's something, like I said, it's something that like you get to do with your dog that you're both hanging on, you're both playing. Like I said, I can throw my dog a ball and he can go over and chew on it, but it's a lot more fun if there's a rope attached to that ball and I can yank on it a little bit and make it come alive and play. You know what I mean? Now it's that squeaky toy. He bites and he pushes in, and now it moves and it comes alive.
Right.
Exactly, and it kind of activates that prey drive in a dog. And with a pit bull, like they got a lot of that. So
I see.
let's actually use it in a productive way.
That's crazy. Just kind of the different businesses or theories behind training.
It's like anything in the world. There's always teams, right? You're either on this team or you're on that team. It's the same thing with dog training. You go on social media and there's somewhere where there's someone arguing about their way's better than your way, and
that's the thing, is that positive reinforcement, the negative reinforcement. Like that is, I didn't know that was a big thing too. I know it's like it's gotta be e-collars. My dogs, like we go out in public, like you almost get weird looks in a way. Like, why is that thing on your dog? I'm like, well, without the thing's a fucking psycho.
Exactly,
that's just how it is.
And actually, that thing on the dog allows that dog such a better life and more freedom. Because like you said, if you didn't have it, you probably couldn't bring him there.
Right.
So now, if I don't use it, now my dog has to stay home and he's got to sit into a kennel. Or I can put this thing on him and I can teach it to him in a way that's productive and positive, and it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It allows you the freedom to run around.
Yeah, right.
And then when you get a little bit too far, I can call you back. And if you're too far to even hear me, or you're too into chasing the squirrel or whatever, I can communicate with you. I can tap you on the shoulder from 100 feet away and say, hey, buddy, I'm trying to talk to you. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be a
full on,
hey, he's barking. No, he keeps barking. Like you just fry him. It doesn't have to be that way, you know?
I love that way. I've never actually really looked at it that way, that you actually give the dog way more opportunity. I never looked at it that way.
For sure. Like I get with certain clients, I'll get like really, really kind of deep into the weeds with the e-collar, because I think it's such a great tool, and I usually get that same response. People are usually like, well, I didn't realize, like it's a shock collar to most people. Yeah. That's what it is. You use it to shock your dog, and it's just so much more than that. I think the typical collar that you get at PetSmart, it's got one feature and it's high or low or whatever it might be, and that's what people kind of think of a shock collar. But nowadays, like, excuse me, it's an e-collar. It's a remote collar, right? Like I can use a tone. I can teach the dog that the tone means something. I can teach the dog that the vibrate means something. I have a range from 1 to 100 on the stim, the shock mode, and I can have it, a levels 1 through 10. It's not necessarily a correction. It's just me trying to get the dog's attention. Yeah. And it's teaching the dog that means something. It doesn't, there comes a time if my dog's running out into a busy road after a squirrel, I'm going to crank that sucker up and I'm going to make sure he stops, right? Like there's a time and a place. But for the most part, the way I'm using an e-collar, and I always put the e-collar on my clients first. I put it in their hand and I push the button. And we work their dog, and then I say, okay, now put it on your hand, and then I push the button. And I say, can you feel it? And they say, no. And I go up, and I go up, and I go up. And then they finally say, okay, I can kind of feel it there. And I was like, okay, because that's twice the level that we've been working your dog for the last hour. And they're just like, they're blown away, because they just think of it as it must hurt. Right. It must be a correction, but it's not. Literally, the level that I work most dogs, I can't feel it. You guys wouldn't feel it at the level that most dogs can that it works on, for sure.
But they can. They must feel. They 100%. Feel it a little bit.
Yep. As long, for sure. I mean, all dogs are different. So some dogs have a little bit more of a tolerance to it, and they're going to be a little bit. Maybe they have longer hair to where there's certain. They're all different. So, but average, I'm at like those lower levels where we can't feel it on bare skin.
That's a question I got with the e-collars too, that I've actually kind of fought myself on a little bit. Is how tight do you want them? I know you need a connection, but I mean, how tight do you want? What's the rule of thumb, kind of? Because that's something that I've run into.
So the way I usually do it, I put it around my leg, and then I show my client, I try to spin it, and if I can like freely spin it around my leg, that's too loose. Okay. And then I kind of flex my thigh up a little bit, and then I kind of push on it, and it should be snug. So it's like, okay, I can't move it, but if I really grab it, and I can move it, Like it shouldn't be so tight where it's like I literally can't move it.
Okay.
I should be able to, he's wearing it for a couple hours. Maybe I'll just move it to a different spot so it's not rubbing on the same part of the skin. So basically, you should be able to spin it or move it, but it shouldn't be able to just spin around on it.
Oh, gotcha.
Like if your dog's running around, he shakes his head, it shouldn't move.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There's been a few times actually, because I didn't know myself, and I'll put on the dog's running the fucking thing, just going in circles around
and
his
that's
neck.
90% of the time I go back to a client's house and it's too loose. So we always think like we feel bad for the dog, and I can really empathize with most of my clients because I'm kind of a softie too with my dog. Like I got to have a blanket in his kennel. And he's got his Kong in there. I don't want his collar too tight, and like in the sport and the protection dog world, most of the time that's not, they don't, it's a little different. So like I can really, I empathize with my clients, and I can explain to them like, no, I get it. Right. Like I understand, I feel the same way, but I've learned now that this is the way. It's not hurting him. And I usually tell people like, if it's too tight, they'll let you know. You know what I mean? Like if it's so tight that it's bothering them, they'll let you know. But half the time, it could be a little bit too tight, and that dog's not going to care. They're going to forget it's there after a little bit.
Yeah.
With your business as it's growing, what are you aiming for? Like
So like everyone that knows me knows I'm kind of like, I'm a big dreamer. My whole life, it's always been like I said, I dive into things and I go 100%, and I start a new business, and I'm talking about, my just having this massive empire. And I've always
That's us.
and I've always been that. Hell yeah. I feel like that's how you should be. Because if, I just, and it kind of goes back, I mentioned earlier, like I look at people that have these big empires, and I look at them and I know they're no different than me.
Right.
You know what I mean? If anything, I think, I have a lot of my life experience and what I've been through, and I'm not saying I'm like not the sob story or anything, but I've been through adversity. I've overcome certain things. I can communicate with people pretty well, and so I look at these people that own these massive businesses and they're CEOs of $100 million businesses, and I'm not different than them. They're not better than me. They're not smarter than me. I guarantee you they won't work harder than me. And so my goal is just, I don't even really, my goal is just to keep growing. I think like,
I love that.
Overall, what I want is, like I said earlier, I want to have a business where I can do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I love working with pet dogs. I have last night I had a client that our hour, I was like, I had so much fun. Like we had this huge breakthrough with a dog that was extremely reactive towards people and other dogs. And I kind of, we had a couple lessons where we were trying things and it wasn't really working. And then all of a sudden we tried something and it was like the light bulbs like kind of just flicked on. And I was so pumped. I was like, we were out in the parking lot and I was just like playing with this dog. I was screaming. I was like, what? Like it's kind of, I was just acting like a big kid, and I was just like having a blast. So it's not that I don't like doing that, but like the protection sports, and I would really like to work with more police dogs. I've done a little bit of that. I kind of just got a little taste of that. And I thought I really enjoyed that. And I think I can be a really big asset to a lot of police departments with their dogs because, I'm a dog guy. I don't know anything about being a cop. I don't know anything about, tactics or anything like that. But like, I think that's the thing. Like, the people that are training the dogs in the police world are cops.
Yeah.
They learned how to train the dog at their 8-week handler course. And they learned from a guy who did it, 30 years ago, and they're doing it the same way. So the first kind of police dog thing that I went to, it was a brand new handler course, and it was three young cops who were just starting, brand new handlers, fairly new cops, and brand new handlers. It's their first dog. They're just starting day one. And so I come out to just help. And, I went out there just to get in the suit and get bit.
Yeah.
And they were teaching, and these dogs were green dogs. So a green dog is a dog that has very little training. Maybe they know sit, maybe they know an out, and an out is like the dog letting go of a bite. And they knew nothing.
What age are the dogs?
These dogs were like a year old, young, like very young dogs. Like, just basically feral animals. And these handlers were, step one was get him to play with a ball, a toy, and teaching him to drop it. So they're out there trying to teach these extreme, powerful, intense dogs that will literally run through a brick wall for this ball, and they're trying to tell him to let it go, and it's not working, right? Like they're having to choke the dog off the ball and then try again and choke him off the ball, and now they're getting bit. And now, like, they're choking the dog off the ball, and he's coming up, and he's trying to bite him, and it's just like, oh, man, this is not going to end well. So I, like, mentioned something. I was like, hey, we should try to just, like, we should try to use 2 balls and just give him a switch. So that's how I taught my dog to out. When he was a little puppy, I had 2 identical toys. I'd give him one, I'd play, and then I'd freeze up with that one, and then I would tell him to out, and then if I'd shake this one. This one would go limp, and I'd go, yeah, get it. And the second he spit that one out, I would say, yes, and then he'd get that one.
Sure.
So now, so my dog now, dropping a toy is no big deal for him because he knows it's just part of the game.
Yeah.
Most dogs don't want to drop things because they think it's the end of the game.
Yeah.
So we can use this method with 2 balls or 2 toys and just teach him, hey, if you let this one go, I'll give you this one. If you let that one go, I'll give you this one. So now we're teaching the dog to let go of a bite with no conflict. It's positive. It's not a bad thing. Like, I'll give you something else. I'll give you something else. And so, like, I was watching these guys try and play with their dog, and I was like, noticing that the more, because they were having to, it's called a hard out. They were having to just grab the dog's collar and basically take away their oxygen, and then this ball gets spit out, and then they start playing again. Jeez. And I was noticing that these are young dogs. Some dogs that, they can handle a little bit better, but I was noticing that each time they did that, the dog was getting more and more pissed off. They're like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. And then one time he did it, and then the dog turned around and tried to bite the cop.
Oh, fuck.
And I was like, hey, can I show him something? Can we go do something? And like day one, I'm out there like teaching these guys how to do something, and it's working. And they're like high-fiving each other, and they're like, oh shit. He's like, it's working. Like the dog's not trying to bite him. And it was really cool. And I got to go back quite a few times throughout their 8-week course. So like when a cop becomes a canine handler, they get a dog, and then they go through an 8-week course. And then after the 8-week course, they certify, and then they go hit the streets with their dog.
So 8 weeks, that's it. Start to finish.
That's it. 8 weeks.
And is that like an everyday 8-hour shift? Or
yeah, for sure. Really? Yep. 9 a.m. to 9 to 5. Wow.
So,
but still, that's not that long.
No.
Especially with a dog that doesn't know anything. You're starting from nothing. Yeah. So,
don't they say like an hour? Ain't there like a certain time kind of that people recommend to train a dog? Because if you overwork it, it kind of...
For sure. And like these dogs are different. Like...
Because it is a working breed.
Yeah, like Rico, I could train him for 8 hours straight, and he won't stop. Wow. He'll hurt himself before he stops. Like that's my main problem with Rico is just to keep him from hurting himself. Like I can't play fetch with him anymore. I can only do certain things because he just goes so hard that he hurts himself. So like with those kind of dogs, yes, but you don't want to do that. Like you don't want to work them. So like when we're training with like the police dogs, they're out for 1 minute, and then we put them back in the car. And then the next dog comes out, and then we're out there 1 minute back in the car. And we cycle through 2 or 3 times, and then we kind of take a break, go over some stuff, and then go on to the next thing. And then usually, like we're starting in the morning, we're doing tracking. So it's, or obedience. You start off in the morning, you're doing obedience, just doing some healing, some downs, some stays, maybe some article searches, and then maybe you go into some tracking because these are all dual purpose dogs. They search for odor, and then they apprehend people. So they can track and then bite the guy. So then maybe we go to lunch, and then in the afternoon we're doing bite work. So overall, you might have strung together a couple hours, but they're only out for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes at a time.
That's crazy. That's a lot. I mean, I knew they kind of did some scent work, but even that kind of works the brain a lot, does it not?
100%. Like with my dog, like what I was saying, I could throw his ball an hour straight, and I'm gonna bring him inside, and he's gonna be like, okay, now what? Like, I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm trying to get him tired. But if I'll throw his ball in a field of long grass and turn him around and then send him to now he's got to go hunt for it. I do that 3 or 4 times, and now he's tired because now he's having to search and he's hunting. Exactly. So yeah, it's definitely like mental stimulation for a dog is huge, especially with like some of these work athletic, strong dogs. Like they'll just go and go and go.
Jeez.
Yeah. So But yeah, so that's something that I would love to get more involved with because, like I said, I think I could be a big asset to a lot of the the local police departments. I really truly believe I could go into most of them, and I know I sound like kind of like douchey and like
No, I think
but like I'm a realist. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I do like when I watch them training, I'm sitting off the sides and say like I could do that. I can help with that, and I think it's really cool. Like I went through a phase in my life where, after high school, I did the college thing for a little bit and was kind of just being this, just wild idiot partying and getting into trouble. And then I kind of had this realization of like, hey, I gotta get my shit together. And like I said, my dad was in the military and, I kind of made I wanted to join the military. And, I tried that for probably like 5 years where I couldn't get in because of my tattoos.
Oh, really?
I couldn't get in. So most of it was the tattoos. I have, like I said, I have a little bit on my record where, I would have needed to get a waiver. But at the time, this was like when Obama was president and they were like downsizing the military. So the standards to get in, they can make it higher. So like if we're trying to grow the military, they lower the standards and say, hey, like
anyone,
I'll take. Hey, you want to join? We'll join you. Like in the early 2000s, they were taking felons. They were taking. I mean, if you could sign on the dotted line, they would take you. So when I made that decision and I wanted to do that, I couldn't. I had a hard time. And actually, it's kind of funny because you would think like I would go into like, and I didn't really care what I wanted. I just wanted to get in just because I wanted to get my life together. And in my head, I thought like, someone like the Marine Corps, like the Army, like they'd take me, right? Maybe not the Air Force or the Navy. Like they probably have more strict, standards. Yeah. But actually, the funny part was the closest I got in was with the Air Force. They were the only ones that were willing to do a waiver for my tattoos and my criminal history, which isn't crazy. I don't have any felons or anything, but they were the only ones that were like, I went into the Marine Corps recruiting office. These dudes had neck tattoos. These dudes had hand tattoos. Yeah. And then I go in there and I roll my sleeves up and they're like, oh, sorry, we can't take you. I'm like, dude, wait, what?
Yeah.
What like, look at yourself. You're literally covered in tattoos. And they're like, sorry, like, that's just, the regulations and stuff are always changing. It just it depends on the time. It was just bad timing. And I guess it just wasn't meant to be. And yeah, so then, and I used to think I would be cool to be a police officer, but like, I think in a different life, like if I wouldn't have went down the path I did, I would have done something like that. Yep. So like now to be able to go full circle and like, I would catch myself, we're training with the police guys and I'm driving down the road and I'm in like this like, line of 5, 6, 7 cop cars. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, there was a time where I would be really stressed right now. But now here I am, like working with these guys and helping them. And like, it's really cool because it's like, I used to be, I used to not be a productive member of society and I wanted to be. It wasn't, I'm not a bad person. Yeah. It was just, I went down the wrong path and I made some pretty poor decisions, but like, I've always wanted to do something, good. And I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself. So like to come full circle, because after the military didn't work out, I like looked into other things like, oh, maybe I could be like a paramedic. I did some like medical training. I went to California and did like some security training. Like I was always trying to find like a loophole or like a way to kind of weasel my way into that world without actually like, because I wasn't able to. And I think this is really cool because it kind of, at the end of the day, like I was able to actually, work with these guys and actually help and like contribute in a way, and be a part of something, maybe I'm not out there doing what I wanted to do. And now I'm kind of, there's certain times where I'm like, I have regret and think like, man, I wish I would have made that decision sooner where, it wasn't too late. But now looking back, it's like, it's pretty cool that,
kind of worked out as it did.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat though. Just kind of, providing a service, like you said.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
It's really cool though that you like, even when you were going through struggling times, but what it sounds like, that you knew you still wanted to better yourself.
For sure, man.
You know what I mean? Like you said, you hit your ups and your downs, but you know what? You still we're like, God, I'm better than this. Like, what is it? And then everyone's trying to find their purpose, man. Yeah. Everyone's constantly trying to figure it out. And
for sure.
I mean, that's just like us. We tried, I mean, fuck, you could go back when I was young, 12 years old. I wanted to be an inventor in the worst way. Like, I'm not even kidding, dude. I got old fucking drawings of like, I had all these ideas of shit, and it's fun. I got them saved up, and it's cool to look back, but I've always had a creative mindset. I always knew I was made for something bigger. Same thing. I have a hard time being an employee, you know, like, I want to be the man, like the boss, you know, like, you know, that kind of a thing. And that was like, we tried like Stoner Brothers Dirt Work. We bought fucking dump truck and like all this shit, dude. And it failed. Yeah. You know, like all this shit, like you go, like we got a list of fucking shit we tried to do.
Me too, dude.
You know, and it's like, but if you never try and you actually don't fucking do it, how would you know?
Yeah.
You know,
no one does it the first time. First try. Like that never happens.
No. And then it's like, you know, now with the podcast and we got real estate, we got a couple houses, you know, so it's like we're trying to like dabble in that and grow in that. And it's like, I love real estate. Like, I think that's my fucking passion now. Like, I found it, and it's like, I love it. It's fun. You get to see progress of even like the flip in the house, you know, just anything, anything. You get to see how it goes from a fucking hunk of shit to, wow, it looks pretty good.
And someone's living in there. And, you know, like they get to call that their house.
For sure.
Yeah.
Man. Yep. That's what, like when I did do like painting and masonry and stuff, that was like the best part. Like you start off with like nothing, and then at the end of it, you look at it and you're like, dang.
Fuck, I did that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I get 100%. that. I get that for sure.
That is a good feeling. I think that's ultimately that's what I like to see. Yeah. I think I know everyone kind of has their own favorite part, but seeing the transformation and making the videos, like we were starting to make YouTube videos, just kind of like fixing up the house. You know, it's something new. Yeah. But it's like you kind of look back on it, like one of the first properties, and it's like, damn, it was ghetto. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was a nice neighborhood and all. It's just run down.
Yeah.
And
then watching the videos cringy as fuck.
Oh, fucking right.
You know, it's like you're looking back and you're like, dude, what the fuck were we thinking, man?
But it's like you just do a time lapse of painting the house or whatever it is. Like,
I just realized I should have poured this in this cup.
Dude, either or.
We're not sponsored by Monster. What are we doing here?
Yeah, unless they want to. But it's never too late.
But dude, like that whole kind of like back to what you were saying, like the whole time, like when I was going through some shit, like I would say, like, let's say I was not making good choices for a year straight. For every single day that whole year, I was saying tomorrow I'll turn it around. Every day. And I'm not like exaggerating or joking. Like every single day, I would say tomorrow I'll stop. Tomorrow I'll turn my life around. So yeah, for sure. I've always, knew that I wasn't, I was meant to do something with my life, like, and also too, like it could get like, kind of get more into the weeds and talk about some of the things I've been through. Like I totaled a motorcycle once where I left the driveway with no helmet. I took my dad's bike without him knowing, and I left without a helmet. And I turned around because I forgot glasses. Yep. And if you've ever ridden a bike with no glasses, it's not that fun. You're like, it's almost impossible. So I turned around to get a pair of glasses, and I'm walking back to the bike, and something just like, for some strange reason, I just turned over and I saw the helmet laying on the ground. And this was probably the 5th or 6th time that I've taken his bike out for a little joyride.
Without him knowing.
Yeah, without him knowing and without wearing a helmet. Yeah. I never once wore a helmet. And for some reason, I went back to get the glasses. I forgot the glasses again for some reason. And I turned over and the helmet was just laying in the middle of the garage. And I just didn't think. I didn't think about should I wear a helmet? I just saw it and I picked it up and I put it on my head. And within 2 miles, I crashed the bike and I totaled it, smashed my head up, bounced my head off the concrete. Probably would have died if I wasn't wearing that helmet, So not to get too crazy about it, but there's certain things that I've been through that it's like you can't look at it and be like, I'm supposed to be doing something. Right. I've been given so many chances, and I'm so blessed to have been given chances, and because I could have got my car checked several times.
Yeah, that's fucking scary. It's little instances like that where you don't think nothing of it. What did your dad have to say when he found out?
Oh, dude, my dad's great. He was like, obviously he's probably pissed, but he was more worried about that I was okay. Obviously he was pissed. He probably chewed me out, but making that phone call wasn't hard because I knew he wasn't. It wasn't going to be. Insurance will write him. The bike. We can get a new bike. Yeah. Right? you know, he was more just concerned if I was okay. And
What is it, like a Harley you got? Or what?
yeah, it was a Harley. Yeah. It was an old bagger.
Was it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Those are beefy things, ain't they?
Yeah.
So did you just lose traction?
That was like my favorite. That was probably it kind of sucks. Like that was my favorite one of his bike. I think it might have been one of his favorites too. It was like all like matte black. It was lowered. It was a pretty customed out. It was a pretty cool bike. But yeah, no, I was actually going around. There's like a fork in the road where it goes around a big corner, and I was going straight. And there's like a big, so the corner is almost like a berm.
Okay.
Not a big, not like a berm, but it kind of bermed a little bit to where if you go straight, you kind of go up, and you know if you're going faster, you probably can get some air. But I think I hit some sand. I'm pretty sure I hit sand, and I slammed it on the ground, and I slid so far. I got scars all over my arms and got road rash, and luckily I kind of got knocked unconscious, and I woke up, and there was a guy who just happened to be driving by on a tractor, and he helped. He came over, and I woke up, and he was like standing there, and he's like, "Are you all right? You okay?" He's like, "I just saw that happen." He's like, "It was crazy," and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm good, right? Like I think I'm good." And my arms all tore up and bloody, and he helped me push the bike out of the ditch, and I rode the bike back home. And like, I mean, it was like spokes were broken, the handlebars were bent, my arms all messed up, and I'm like just barely made it back. But
Dad's waiting for you. Hey son, what the fuck?
Yeah. He was at work. I had to call him, and he came home. I said,
one of them deals.
Yeah.
That's a nerve-wracking phone call.
No bueno.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
You're not gonna believe
So-
it. And then he's just thinking like, "Oh fuck, I bet I will. What is it?" You know,
Right,
just
yeah.
like, "Oh fuck, I know this game."
Yep.
Yeah, ask our dad.
Yeah, it probably wasn't his first phone call like that, so he probably was.
Yeah.
he was probably used to it. Unfortunately, not proud of that, but
To wrap this up, where can people get a hold of you? Or
yeah, dude. So like the business is Revive Canine. I have a Facebook and an Instagram, which would be really cool because the Instagram's pretty new. I'm trying my best to like be more active on social media.
Yep.
It's tough because I'm so busy, but it's Revive Canine MN, I believe. If you just type in Revive Canine Minnesota, you'll find it. And then Facebook, Revive Canine, and then that's it. I have a website. Same thing, www.revivecaninemn.com. And yeah, right now we're like I said, we're super busy. I just closed the books for March.
Damn, brother, good for you.
We're scheduling into April. Like I said, I got a couple trainers working for me as contractors, taking on board and trains, and yeah, the goal is to just keep building a team.
Yeah.
Like I don't want it to. I don't always just want to be a one man show because I started a business because I want to be my own boss and I want to make my own schedule, but. It's just not the case to start.
100%.
Like I don't make my own. I mean, I do make my own schedule, but it's like I work constantly. I don't really have time to do anything else, and I want to eventually get to the point where I can do more stuff that I want to do, and that I can. If I take 2 weeks off to go train with my dog, my business is still making money.
Right.
Like that's actually a good way to answer it. My goal is to create a business that doesn't need me to keep running.
Yeah, more as a passive.
Yes. Yep.
Kind of,
So get to a point where I can leave and the ball keeps rolling.
Yeah.
So that's the goal right now. And then just keep growing.
Damn good goal, dude.
Revive Canine in every state and have, like big franchise maybe and just kind of keep going.
Absolutely. Dude, I love it. I love it.
Man.
I fucking love it. That's one thing that I noticed on this conversation here and just listening to your stories that I truly do respect about you is that very passionate dude. I mean, from the start we started talking, like I could see that right away. Very passionate, driven. I mean, great mindset, good vibes. I mean, you guys have great vibes, like solid dude for sure. I mean, you put off very good energy and it's awesome, man. Much respect. And, I'm super excited to watch your brand and grow more and more. It's
man.
Glad you were
awesome.
able to come too.
Yeah,
I know it's a little bit of jaunt in that, but
no, it's all good. It worked out. But yeah,
Awesome.
man, same to you guys. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to keep seeing this grow and hopefully, it just keeps growing and maybe come back in a couple of years
Damn
and it's
right,
going to be
dude.
just huge and
Absolutely.
it's going to be cool. Hell
absolutely, man.
Yeah. Cool, man.
well, for all your training, reach out to Revive. And once again, thank you for being here. And we'll see you guys next time.
That's awesome. Thank
Have
you
a
so
good one.
much.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
Motherfucker, I've been mortified, fortified, feeling like a Mordecai. I ain't regular, feel like Jordan wearing 45. Traumatized, victimized, seen some of my niggas die. Knock you off a base with a bat when them niggas slide. Homicide, genocide.